Hello all, welcome to my channel. I'm back with another video. In this video, we will be discussing few serverless architectures which are used in popular apps. So let's get started. To start with, what is a serverless architecture? So serverless computing has actually changed the backend development in cloud era. Uh, Serverless services like Lambda, like Cloud Functions, or like Lambda runners, or so different cloud vendors have different serverless components. So those components have or services has allowed developers to focus more on the code and deploying it quickly rather than managing the infrastructure. Serverless eliminates the complex task of maintaining and patching the servers and infrastructure. So that has actually pushed the boundary for the large and small organizations to develop more on the business processes rather than on focusing on the infrastructure part. So in this video, we will see some of the architectures, serverless architectures, which are used in companies which are well known or apps which are well known, and see how serverless architecture is being used. So first thing is Netflix. So Netflix uses event-driven architecture a lot. So in Netflix, what happens uh, what you call every service which is there reacts to a certain event. That event can be user event like click. It can be a watch event. It can be a preview event. It can be a resume event. So there are different events, and each microservices reacts to a certain event, and this allows the communication to happen. And so they have concept of event bus. And Netflix uses Kinesis a lot. Means it used to, it might still be using Kinesis a lot, but they might have shifted to other stream processing engines as well. But in the earlier times, they used Amazon Kinesis a lot for the event processing. And so based on that, the components or the different services would react to the certain events that used to happen. So this event-driven architecture allows Netflix to be more dynamic. In a sense, it is not bottlenecked by one particular service taking the hogging of the resources, because it is an asynchronous nature. One event is generated, that is sent to a event streaming platform, and then there is some other service which consumes it and then processes it as it when available. So for example, let's say there is a video chunking service which happens that, okay, when you are watching the next, let's say 5 or 6 frames are to be rendered in the real time. So when the user has, let's say, watched till a certain particular time, then what happens is that Netflix, it will send an event that, okay, user has watched till this particular time. So the prefetching of the next, let's say, 7 or 8 segments, which is supposed to be there based on the content type, device type, based on the resolution or the internet bandwidth of that particular user, a service will decide which format or which encoding format we should be rendering that content for the next, let's say, 4 to 5 slides or slots. So that again is done by a service which is totally event driven. So yeah, this makes Netflix quite unique, that it leverages serverless functions even for event driven architecture. Then there is Airbnb. So Airbnb uses microservice architecture. Uh, so Airbnb serverless architecture is built using a microservice model. So each service, such as user authentication or, for example, a search service or booking service or API, or user authentication service, all are backed by the serverless systems which are there. For example, the authentication service is based on AWS Lambda plus API gateway, or the search service is based on AWS Lambda, uh, or or there are other services which are backed by AWS Lambda API gateway. It can be DynamoDB as well, because that also comes under serverless purview. So they have different services which are built on serverless components, where there is the team doesn't manage the serverless servers itself or the infrastructure itself. It is managed by the cloud team. They only manage its life cycle, like for example, when to provision a Lambda, when to provision DynamoDB, when to what type of data modeling that we have to do to suit the requirements that we have. So yes, Airbnb uses this. So for example, it uses different services to perform different actions, and any service is running in a serverless fashion, and when combined together makes a whole system. Let's say Expedia. So Expedia follows an API first development. It also heavily uses serverless components of it is hosted in AWS. So it has a lot of components in AWS. So how it works is, for example, let's say the design that they have for building let's say a new API or a new layout. So what they do is they have a lot of serverless components which follow the API first design. So API first design in a sense is that it will create APIs for each of the layouts which is there. So for example, let's say if they want to define a new feature, or let's say recommending a hotel or plus the travel content to the user. So first they will design the API contract. So they will design a GraphQL schema, or for example, let's say experience API, which is there for the experience module, and then that is implemented. Let it will implement from the back. This will be done. This API contract will be agreed by the both the backend and the front end teams. And front end team will build the block. Front end team will build the layout, and the backend team will implement the uh, block data providers, or which is backend, which is the backend services will be who will be serving the requests APIs responses with graph. So they build it using the GraphQL resolvers. So what happens is whatever request comes, the specific data can be fetched directly, and that's why this API first approach is. And then this block data is powered, or it is send means it will respond with an whatever data that it responds, the layout on the UI will be composed dynamically, and it will be rendered dynamically based on certain serverless function which will be running. So that will decide what kind of layout it will render. And then front end apps, let's say it can be web or mobile, they pass that layout and fetch the data block, and then render the UI blocks driven by API responses, and that's how it keeps on working. And for example, let's say if we have to future we have to add a new block or update a layout, we just simply take the same process. Like front end will simply define the feature, the backends will define the contract with the data layout, whatever is there, and then it will be rendered back to the UI. So these are certain certain ways in which serverless is being used in microservices or uh, other architectures which are out there. So yes, this was it. I just wanted to give an idea of few serverless architectures which is being used by some apps. There can be multiple. There are very different use cases as well. I will see if I can compile this in further videos to have a more unified view as well. So yes, this was it for the video. We will see you in a different video. Thank you.